Hi everyone, and now for your Alaska weather for July 25th, 2023. This is meteorologist Joel Curtis, and boy, I've got some amazing stuff to show you here. So let's get started. First of all, for our weather headlines, we have a red flag warning out for the Yukon Flats in the central interior. This is due to fire starts and dry fuel and lightning, because we've got more thunderstorms for the central interior through all the way, and actually a major portion of the mainland Alaska, all the way through Thursday. And then it's hot. For the central and eastern interior, 80s and in a few places at times touching into 90. Also Shushalden volcano, it's huffing and a puffing, about a little bit of steam, sulfur dioxide, and a few puffs of ash. And the Juneau Forecast Office is keeping an eye on Suicide Basin, which impacts the Mendenhall River. That's a glacier dam outburst, and the water is rising in Suicide. So let's look at yesterday's lightning. Boy, oh boy, over 20,000 strikes is what you see on the screen here. Look at that swath across much of mainland Alaska, even some in the Chukchi and Beaufort Sea as well. Really big thunderstorm outbreak, and that's all due to the air mass thunderstorms that are in a ridge of high pressure over the state. And here's the lightning so far today. Last I looked, it was about 1,800 strikes or so in the state. Not quite as much as yesterday, but still the day is young when I'm recording this. So this is through 2:30 p.m. today, and notice a lot of strikes from the Alaska Range on up toward Fairbanks, and lots in the central interior. And then, oh, by the way, a few more strikes also in the Arctic Ocean areas too. So let's take a look at the hazardous weather today. We have that red flag warning I mentioned for the Yukon Flats, central interior around Tanana. Also, there's a special weather statement by Fairbanks, keeping an eye on the rivers, all the tributaries going into the Tanana River, where they get heavy rainfall from these thunderstorms, and the streams and rivers are rising pretty good, and just want folks to keep an eye out for high water on those systems. So yesterday we got 30 new fire starts, and we got a couple of pictures from the Department of Forestry, Pogo Mine Road, Sunday evening, and then another one also near Pogo by Levi Tucker from the Chananaw Chiefs crew, and you can see that flame coming over the horizon. Never a pretty sight when you're out there fighting wildland fires. And so here we go with the fire danger. The grass is extreme in the Yukon Flats area, otherwise very high to high for much of the central and eastern interior, and then also down on the west slopes of the western Alaska Range. Spruce Adjective, really pretty much the same places, but the fuel is dry. So when you get lightning strikes, there's another thing that we look at for the duff moisture. And what that is that spongy layer just below the grasses, down a couple of inches into the soil. And if that's really dry, then a lightning spark can get going in that, get an ignition going, and sometimes we get holdover fires for as long as a week after that lightning struck that duff, and the duff is dry enough. So here's our satellite loop for today. First of all, quite a system over there in Canada, but note that we've got some good cloud top temperatures, both up in the northwest as well as the central interior. And then we have the remnants of an old front that's moving onshore in southwestern Alaska. And then a pretty complex system that we've got going out for the Bering Sea right now. Again, a slight development down down there by Unalaska, then a secondary low down near the western Aleutians, and then a primary low up by toward the Gulf of Anadyr, not too far off of St. Matthew Island. So we're going to look at that system right now. Two lows, about 998 millibars, a pretty good occluded front developed around that system and then stretching down to the eastern Aleutians. But that's that secondary system that's developing a little bit, 998 millibars, with a surge of a little bit cooler air below it. And then note that thermal low pressure over the central interior, actually a little bit toward the northeast, but we got a trough there, and then all the thunderstorms that evolve with that because of that daytime heating and that high pressure aloft is not enough to suppress the thunderstorms, so you get air mass thunderstorms and clusters of them and convergence of low-level winds, and then when the thunderstorms die, the winds spread out along with the rainfall. So then for tonight's weather, we've got, again, that pair of lows out in the Bering Sea, but the front's falling apart on that northern one. A little bit of a cold front there south of Cold Bay, but again, that system is just sort of teetering around there north of the central Aleutians, about 99 millibars. Some high pressure south of the Gulf, and that's causing some onshore flow for southeast Alaska, surging in a little bit there. Going in, pushing low clouds and fog into southeast. And in the meantime, that thermal low hangs around all night with thunderstorms around it and 1,011 millibar center. And then for tomorrow, when it heats up again, that 1,000 millibar center stays right almost the same place. Thunderstorms over much of the mainland portion of Alaska, and then a few that are on the periphery of what I've indicated there. A high pressure is built to 1030 millibars south of the Gulf of Alaska, still causing that onshore flow for southeast Alaska. And then, as we see in the Bering Sea, now the system is consolidated, but still weakening, 1,002 millibars low center, and a little bit of surge of cold air behind it, and a little bit of troughiness out through the far southwestern Gulf of Alaska. And then for Thursday's weather, another system develops. It's really weak, 1,013, not too far from Dutch Harbor. The second one is up by St. Matthew Island, 1,008 millibars with a trough indicated, still causing a little precipitation along the west. In the meantime, the thermal low still sets up by the Alcan, weakened to 1,013, but still plenty of thunderstorms all around that. And then you can see the high in the southern Gulf and that surge of air, onshore wind for low clouds and fog in southeast. So now let's look at the temperature. Stays pretty darn warm overnight in the Yukon Flats, up to 63 degrees. But note Utqiagvik down to 40 degrees. Why? Because it's really near the coast and near that sea ice, which cools off like a refrigerator. But note there's still some pretty high 50s as you get to where the Brooks range, and also for Kotzebue is looking for a low temperature of 59. And in the meantime, as you go further southwest, temperatures in the 50s, and then as you go out in the Bering Sea, maybe a few 40s. Also for southeast, note that we've got temperatures in the upper 40s and lower 50s going on for the lows. And then Wednesday afternoon, temperature for predicted 90 degrees for Fort Yukon, so that's where that hot and dry is still going on there. 80s across the central interior, but then you go all the way up to Utqiagvik and you're down to 41 degrees, again near the sea ice. Still some 60s along the coast up there, and then as you go down into the southwest, 60s tapering off to into the 50s as you go along the beach. The Alaska Peninsula still in the 60s, but you got some 50s as you go further out the Aleutians. And look at even some temperatures approaching the high 60s for southeast Alaska. And then for Thursday morning, again, very similar with the low temperatures, dropping off to 39 at Utqiagvik, but 64 overnight for Fort Yukon, and temperatures generally in the 50s around the state. And then for high temperatures Thursday afternoon. Look at Dead Horse, 63, but then you've got some 64 and 66 on the Chukchi and Arctic Ocean side, but 43 still for Utiagavik, hanging in there with the fog and low clouds and near the sea ice. But 88 for Fort Yukon, and then plenty of 70-degree readings in the central interior, dropping off to 60s and upper 50s as you get down by the southwest coast. Western side, though, still in the 60s, and then in the even up into the 70s for the southeast Alaska, 61 for Kodiak. And then taking a look at, for example, Valdez, still 63. And now, a quick look at 6 to 10 day outlook. We've got a pretty good probability of above normal temperatures for most of the state, centered about the south central and then into the southwestern interior. As you get further north, a little less probability that it's going to be above normal temperatures, but really warm side is what we're looking at here. And then for dryness, we've got the western areas, pretty good probability of below normal precipitation, but over by the Alcan, a little better than 50-50 that you're going to see a temperature or precipitation above normal. And then for 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, pretty much the same, all the way out to August 8th. Again, for south central, for the central and a little bit into the western interior, bleeds off as you get over towards southeast or up to Utiagavik, and then normal precipitation for 8 to 14. So, folks, please pay attention to all those thunderstorms that are out there in the midsection and all the other interesting weather that we've got going on. Dial into your local forecast office and get the latest details for your individual weather. And please stay safe out there. Thank you very much for tuning in.